Have you ever noticed that the harder you chase something, the further it seems to move away? The money you desperately want never arrives fast enough. The relationship you obsess over feels uncertain. The success you dream about always seems one step ahead. And every night you lie awake wondering what you're doing wrong. But what if I told you that one of the greatest secrets hidden inside Stoic philosophy is this? The moment you stop desperately gripping your desires is often the moment life begins moving in your direction. Most people spend their entire lives fighting reality. They force, they push, they chase, they obsess, and then they wonder why they feel exhausted. Marcus Aurelius observed something extraordinary nearly 2,000 years ago. He realized that suffering often begins when the mind refuses to accept the present moment. Think about that. Not when something bad happens, not when life becomes difficult, but when your mind starts arguing with reality itself. Imagine a man standing in the ocean trying to stop the waves. Every wave knocks him down. Every wave frustrates him. Every wave makes him angry. Yet the problem isn't the ocean. The problem is that he believes the ocean should obey him. Many people live exactly this way. They want life to move according to their timeline. They want people to behave according to their expectations. They want success to arrive according to their plans. And when reality disagrees, they become anxious, frustrated, angry, and overwhelmed. The Stoics discovered something different. Instead of fighting the waves, they learned how to flow with them. And strangely enough, the people who stop fighting reality often become the very people who achieve extraordinary things, because their energy is no longer wasted on resistance. It's focused on action. There is a story about a young entrepreneur who spent years trying to become successful. Every morning he woke up obsessed with money. Every conversation revolved around money. Every decision revolved around money. Every failure felt like a personal attack. Every setback felt like proof he wasn't good enough. The more he chased success, the more stressed he became. His relationships suffered, his health suffered, his confidence suffered. One day an older mentor asked him a question. What if success isn't running away from you? What if you're suffocating it? The young man laughed. The mentor continued, You treat success like a frightened animal. Every time it gets close, you chase it, and every time you chase it, it runs. That conversation changed everything. Instead of obsessing about outcomes, he became obsessed with mastery. Instead of focusing on results, he focused on daily actions. Instead of asking what he could get, he asked what he could become. Months later, opportunities appeared. Years later, success followed. But by then, something surprising had happened. He no longer needed success to feel valuable. And that is exactly why success could no longer control him. This is one of the deepest Stoic secrets. Attachment creates suffering. Desperation creates weakness. Neediness creates fear. But inner peace creates power. Most people misunderstand manifestation. They believe manifestation means sitting around imagining luxury cars and dream houses. The Stoics would laugh at that idea. For them, manifestation began with character, because your reality is often shaped by the person you become. If you become disciplined, your opportunities change. If you become courageous, your choices change. If you become resilient, your future changes. Your life changes because you change. And here's where most people miss the point. They want a different life without becoming a different person. They want confidence without facing fear. They want wealth without developing value. They want respect without earning it. They want peace without controlling their thoughts. Nature doesn't work that way. Seneca taught that luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Read that again. Preparation meets opportunity. Not wishing, not hoping, not begging. Preparation. Every day, the world is full of opportunities. The question is whether you're prepared when they arrive. Imagine two people standing before the same opportunity. One spent years developing discipline, the other spent years making excuses. The opportunity doesn't care. It simply reveals who each person has become. That's why relaxing your mind isn't about becoming passive. It's about eliminating unnecessary resistance. The archer pulls back the bow. He aims carefully. He releases the arrow. After that, the wind may change. Conditions may shift. The arrow may hit or miss. But the Stoic understands something important. His responsibility ended with the release. The outcome belongs to forces beyond his control. Most people continue trying to control the arrow after it's already flying. They replay conversations. They obsess about opinions. They worry about future scenarios that don't exist. Their bodies sit in one place while their minds run thousands of miles away, and then they wonder why they're exhausted. Epictetus warned that suffering begins when we try to control things outside our control. Think about how much of your stress comes from this: the opinion of others, the future, the economy, the behavior of people around you, events that haven't happened, situations you cannot influence. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with bricks all day. Eventually you'd collapse, yet millions of people carry something even heavier. Mental weight, unnecessary weight. Weight that doesn't belong to them, and because they carry it long enough, they forget what freedom feels like. But freedom begins with a simple realization. You do not have to carry everything. You do not have to solve every future problem today. You do not have to control every outcome. You only have to master this moment. And what happens when someone truly masters the present moment? Something extraordinary begins to unfold. Because the present moment contains a hidden power that most people never discover, and that power changes everything. Most people spend their lives waiting for confidence before taking action, waiting for certainty before making a decision, waiting for motivation before becoming disciplined, waiting for the perfect opportunity before pursuing their dreams. And while they wait, life quietly passes them by. The Stoics understood a truth that modern minds often struggle to accept. Clarity rarely comes before action. It comes because of action. Imagine standing at the edge of a dark forest at night. You can only see a few feet ahead. Most people refuse to move because they cannot see the entire path. But the moment you take a step, more of the path becomes visible. Then another step reveals more, then another. Life works the same way. You don't need to see the whole journey. You only need enough courage for the next step. This is where many people sabotage their own manifestations. They become obsessed with guarantees. They want proof before they begin. They want certainty before they commit. They want results before they work. But reality rewards movement, not hesitation. Marcus Aurelius never promised an easy life. He never claimed that the universe would hand people everything they desired. Instead, he taught something far more powerful. He taught that peace comes when you stop demanding certainty from a future that nobody can predict. Think about how much anxiety comes from uncertainty. Will the relationship work out? Will the business succeed? Will people accept me? Will I fail? Will I regret this decision? The mind creates endless questions, and because it cannot answer them, it creates fear. But fear is often nothing more than imagination, pretending to be reality. A man once spent years wanting a promotion. Every day he imagined all the reasons he wouldn't get it. He imagined rejection. He imagined embarrassment. He imagined failure. His mind created thousands of painful scenarios. Eventually, the promotion opportunity arrived, and something surprising happened. None of the disasters he imagined occurred. Years of anxiety had been spent fighting enemies that never existed. How? Many of your fears are exactly like that. How much energy have you spent worrying about events that never happened? How many sleepless nights have been dedicated to imaginary problems? Seneca once observed that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. That single sentence explains the emotional struggle of millions of people. The mind becomes a prison when it constantly lives in a future that does not exist. And the strange thing is this: the future people fear is usually not even real. It's a movie, a story, a projection, a collection of worst-case scenarios playing on repeat. Meanwhile, reality sits quietly in the present moment, waiting to be experienced. This is why learning to relax your mind is not weakness. It is one of the greatest forms of strength. Anyone can panic, anyone can react emotionally, anyone can become overwhelmed. But remaining calm when everyone else is losing control, that is power. Picture 2, captains during a violent storm. The first captain panics, he screams, he blames, he loses emotional control. The crew becomes terrified. Chaos spreads everywhere. The second captain remains calm. The storm is identical. The danger is identical. The circumstances are identical. But his response changes everything. His calmness creates confidence. His confidence creates order. His order creates survival. Life rewards the second captain, not because storms disappear, but because calm minds make better decisions. This principle applies everywhere: in business, in relationships, in leadership, in personal growth. The person who remains calm while others panic gains an enormous advantage. Because emotions cloud judgment. Fear narrows perspective. Desperation creates mistakes. But a relaxed mind sees opportunities invisible to everyone else. Have you ever noticed how solutions often appear when you stop obsessing over a problem? You struggle with something for days. You think about it constantly. You become frustrated. Then one day you let it go. You take a walk. You relax. You stop forcing. And suddenly the answer appears. That isn't coincidence. A relaxed mind processes information differently. When tension disappears, creativity expands. When fear disappears, awareness increases. When resistance disappears, possibilities emerge. This is one reason why Stoics practiced mental stillness. They understood that wisdom cannot be heard through constant mental noise. Imagine trying to hear a whisper inside a crowded stadium. It's impossible. Yet this is how many people live. Their minds are filled with distractions, social media opinions, comparison, regret, fear, anger, jealousy, endless mental chatter. And beneath all that noise exists a quiet voice of wisdom that rarely gets heard. The Stoics trained themselves to listen to that voice, not the voice of panic, not the voice of insecurity, not the voice of ego, the deeper voice, the calmer voice, the wiser voice. And that voice often leads people exactly where they need to go. There is another reason why relaxing your mind changes your reality. People are naturally attracted to certainty. Think about the individuals who have impacted your life the most. They weren't necessarily the loudest. They weren't necessarily the richest. They weren't necessarily the most talented, but they possessed a certain presence, a certain calmness, a certain confidence. When they entered a room, people noticed, not because they demanded attention, but because they didn't need it. This is a hidden form of power. The less desperately you seek validation, the more valuable you become. The less you chase approval, the more respect you earn. The less you need attention, the more attractive your presence becomes. Why? Because desperation repels, confidence attracts. Neediness weakens, self-respect strengthens. People can sense the difference immediately. Imagine two individuals entering a conversation. One desperately wants to impress everyone. The other simply wants to connect authentically. One is performing. The other is present. One seeks validation. The other possesses self-respect. Which person appears more powerful? The answer is obvious, and yet most people spend years unknowingly sabotaging themselves by chasing external approval. The Stoics believed that true freedom begins when your self-worth is no longer dependent on the opinions of others. This doesn't mean ignoring feedback. It means refusing to hand your emotional stability to strangers, because the moment someone else controls your self-worth, they control your peace, and peace is too valuable to surrender. Think about how many people sacrifice their authenticity because they fear judgment. They suppress their dreams, they hide their opinions, they abandon their goals, they shrink themselves to fit expectations, all because they fear disapproval. But here's the irony. No matter what you do, some people will criticize you. If you're successful, they'll criticize you. If you fail, they'll criticize you. If you're ambitious, they'll criticize you. If you're content, they'll criticize you. The criticism never ends. So why build your life around avoiding something unavoidable? Marcus Aurelius faced criticism while leading one of the largest empires in history. Yet he reminded himself daily that the opinions of others could not define him. His character defined him, his actions defined him, his values defined him, nothing else. And perhaps this is the mindset that separates extraordinary people from ordinary ones. Extraordinary people stop negotiating with fear. They stop waiting for universal approval. They stop asking permission to pursue their purpose. They accept that discomfort is part of growth. They understand that criticism is part of visibility. And they move forward anyway. But there is one final obstacle that prevents most people from manifesting the life they desire, an invisible enemy that quietly destroys dreams from within. And once you recognize it, you'll never see yourself the same way again.
The invisible enemy is not failure. It is not bad luck. It is not your circumstances. It is not other people. The invisible enemy is the version of yourself that has become addicted to limitation. Most people never realize this. They believe they are fighting external obstacles when in reality they are fighting internal conditioning. Years of doubt. Years of fear. Years of negative self-talk. Years of believing they are not enough. Eventually these beliefs become invisible prisons. And the most dangerous prison is the one you don't know you're living inside. Imagine an eagle raised among chickens. Every day it watches chickens peck at the ground. Every day it sees them stay close to the fence. Every day it learns their habits, their fears, their limitations. Eventually the eagle forgets what it is. It begins believing it is a chicken too. It never attempts to fly. It never explores the sky. It never discovers its true nature. Not because it lacks the ability, but because it lacks the belief. Many people live exactly this way. They have accepted a story about themselves that is no longer true. Maybe someone once told them they weren't talented. Maybe they failed years ago. Maybe they experienced rejection. Maybe they experienced betrayal. Maybe life knocked them down repeatedly. And little by little they built an identity around those experiences. Instead of saying, "I experienced failure," they began saying, "I am a failure." Instead of saying, "I was rejected," they began saying, "I am unworthy." Instead of saying, "I made mistakes," they began saying, "I am broken." The Stoics understood something life-changing. Events do not define you. Your interpretation of events defines you. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by things themselves but by the views they take of them. Think about that carefully. Two people can experience the same setback. One becomes stronger. The other becomes weaker. One discovers resilience. The other discovers excuses. The event is identical. The interpretation is different. This is why your mindset shapes your reality far more than most people realize. The stories you repeat become beliefs. The beliefs become actions. The actions become habits. The habits become your future. And if you want a different future, you must begin by changing the story. Stop telling yourself you're unlucky. Stop telling yourself you're behind. Stop telling yourself you're incapable. Stop telling yourself it's too late. Those stories are stealing your power. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that every day presented an opportunity to become a better version of himself. Not tomorrow. Not next year. Today. Because the present moment is where transformation begins. Not in fantasy. Not in planning. Not in wishing. In action. A single action today is worth more than 1,000 perfect intentions. The person who reads 1 page becomes wiser than the person who plans to read 100 books. The person who takes 1 step becomes closer than the person who spends years thinking about the journey. The person who starts imperfectly eventually surpasses the person waiting for perfection. This is why discipline remains one of the greatest forms of manifestation. People often think manifestation is about attracting things. The Stoics saw it differently. They believed manifestation was about alignment. Aligning your actions with your values. Aligning your behavior with your goals. Aligning your character with the person you wish to become. When alignment happens, results naturally follow. Not always immediately. Not always exactly as expected. But consistently over time. Imagine planting a tree. You water it daily. You protect it. You nurture it. For weeks it appears nothing is happening. For months it may seem unchanged. Yet beneath the surface roots are forming. Strength is developing. Growth is occurring. Then one day the visible transformation arrives. Most people quit before that moment. They abandon the process because they cannot see immediate results. The Stoics understood patience. They understood that greatness is often invisible before it becomes obvious. Every master was once a beginner. Every success story once looked like failure. Every strong person was once struggling. The difference is that they continued, while others stopped. And this brings us to one of the most powerful realizations of all. The life you desire may already be moving toward you. The opportunity may already exist. The relationship may already be forming. The breakthrough may already be approaching. But your job is not to force it. Your job is to become ready for it. This is where most people get it backward. They focus entirely on what they want. The Stoics focused on who they were becoming. Because becoming creates having. Character creates opportunity. Discipline creates freedom. Wisdom creates peace. And peace creates a kind of magnetic presence that changes everything around you. Have you ever met someone who seemed completely at ease with life? Not because life was easy, but because they were strong. Challenges came. They remained calm. Criticism came. They remained steady. Loss came. They remained resilient. Success came. They remained humble. That is Stoic power. And that power cannot be taken away by circumstances. Because it comes from within. The world teaches people to chase external things. More money. More status. More attention. More validation. The Stoics taught people to build internal wealth. More discipline. More wisdom. More courage. More self-respect. Because external success without internal strength creates fragile happiness. But internal strength creates lasting peace. And when you possess lasting peace, something extraordinary happens. You stop acting from fear. You stop making desperate decisions. You stop chasing things that are not meant for you. You stop forcing outcomes. Instead, you move through life with confidence. You trust your preparation. You trust your character. You trust your ability to handle whatever comes next. That trust changes everything. Because fear shrinks possibilities. Confidence expands them. Desperation clouds judgment. Calmness sharpens it. Neediness repels opportunities. Self-respect attracts them. This is the true secret hidden beneath Stoic philosophy. Relaxing your mind is not about giving up. It is not about becoming passive. It is not about lowering your ambitions. It is about releasing the fear that poisons your ambitions. It is about removing the anxiety that clouds your vision. It is about letting go of what you cannot control so you can fully master what you can. And when you do that, life begins to feel different. You wake up lighter. You think more clearly. You act more confidently. You recover more quickly. You become less affected by chaos. You become less dependent on approval. You become stronger than your circumstances. And perhaps for the first time, you begin to understand what freedom truly means. Not freedom from challenges. Not freedom from uncertainty. Not freedom from hardship. But freedom from being controlled by them. That is the power Marcus Aurelius discovered. That is the wisdom Seneca taught. That is the lesson Epictetus shared. And that is the transformation available to anyone willing to practice it. So the next time your mind begins racing toward the future, pause. Take a breath. Return to the present moment. Remember that your power has always existed here. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Here. Right now. Because the calm mind sees what the anxious mind misses. The disciplined mind achieves what the distracted mind cannot. And the peaceful mind attracts what the desperate mind endlessly chases. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and join a community dedicated to wisdom, discipline, resilience, and self-mastery. Comment below, I trust the process, if you're ready to release fear, strengthen your mind, and become the person your future is waiting for. Your transformation begins the moment you stop chasing everything outside yourself and start mastering everything within.